why the specific 7? Like, where did that come from? Is it because I just like the number 7? Not so much. In this video, I'm going to explain to you why the specific 7, where did it come from, and why you should really know how to clear those 7 points in order to better help your drainage pathways. I'm Dr. Caitlin Sazowski. I'm a certified functional medicine practitioner, and I have been working with people and their lymphatic system since 2010. Now, the specific 7 comes from physiology, honestly. When we look at physiology and we look at the lymphatic system, and then we look at ultimately how we use our bodies in today's modern day, how do those two work together, or how does what we do on a day-to-day basis hinder the lymphatic system from draining? Unfortunately, the specific 7 are really the choke points to our lymphatic system, and they're not even all of them. They're just the big ones. So what do I mean by choke point? Ultimately, our lymph nodes tend to be in clusters. A lot of them. Not all of them, but a lot of them are in clusters. And the specific 7 are the big ones that most of us know, and a lot of us can palpate, especially if there's something going on within that region. Like we can feel if it's hard, or if there's a nodule, or if it's swollen. Now, with that being said, the specific 7 is not all of them. That's why I have the total 12, but we'll get to the total 12 down the road. The specific 7 is really specific to every single person on the planet. Now, why would that be? Well, when we look at the location of the specific 7 lymph nodes, you'll notice that they all fall within major joints. Let's look at this. Other than our termini, which is right above our collarbones, right? There is a joint there, right? Like it's close to our shoulders. We have our sternoclavicular joint here, but this is where all of the fluid drains. This is where all of our lymphatic fluid drains. This tends to become problematic because of how the fluid changes when it becomes congested, meaning if our fluid is sitting there and it becomes thick versus like more like molasses versus water, right? When you pour molasses versus when you pour water, water moves and drains and flows more easily than, say, molasses. So that's why this becomes problematic and becomes ultimately a sticking point. But then we have the tonsillar, which is right under and right near where our head attaches to our skull. The next one that we have is the apical. And this one's a big one just because for most people, especially women, 50% of the population, we're wearing bras or we're carrying backpacks. And it's massively obstructing drainage because of, those articles that we tend to use. The next is the armpit. The armpit, a lot of us will be all crunched up from stress working at a computer, right? So this is going to massively compress those lymph nodes in our armpit. The cisterna chyli is not necessarily a choke point per se, but it is because most of us are not breathing properly. In order for the fluid that is deep, and that fluid in the cisterna chyli is deep, it's not superficial like these other nodes that I've mentioned thus far, and that I will continue to mention like as we move down on the specific 7, the only way that that fluid really moves is from diaphragmatic breathing. And majority of the population is not breathing from their belly. We are chest breathing, shallow, fast chest breathers. So that is a problem. That becomes a choke point. Then we have the groin. Most of us are sitting, right? When we sit, we are compressing the nodes in our groin, right? Because we're ultimately like bringing, if this is our lap, and this is our back, we're compressing these nodes in here versus when we're standing, moving, walking, there's this nice flow. And then the same thing with the knee. When we sit, our knees are bent. Now, why is that a problem? Well, when we think about it, lymphatic fluid has to travel through at least one lymph node before it returns back to the circulatory system via the termini. So if the lymph vessels carries lymph fluid through nodes, but the nodes are being compressed, right? Think of it kind of like a locked door or a shut door. If that door is shut, we can't walk through it, right? Like we have to open that door up in order for us to walk through. Well, the same thing has to happen. If we are compressing those lymph nodes, we aren't able to have as much fluid get through as we should. And this is one of the reasons, or one of the causes to lymphatic congestion. I love the visual of a pond, right? And if we have a pond and the water's moving, the water stays healthy, right? No algae grows, fish can live in it, it becomes a beautiful ecosystem. But the moment that water becomes stagnant and it's not moving, that's when things like grow over it, becomes almost uninhabitable. Well, the same thing happens in our body. Remember, our lymphatic system is the remover of waste. So if it's not draining, you're not removing waste properly. So when we think about it and we look at the specific 7, they're all the choke points to the lymphatic system. So that's why, when I thought about like what is happening, the specific 7 came to light. Now, there are more, right? There's actually 5 more, because if I have the total 12, we got to look at the other ones that can potentially inhibit drainage. Now, why don't I make it so that the total 12 is what everybody has to do? Because 7 sounds so much easier than 12. People honestly are busy and they're like, I don't got time for that. I get it. And if I can make it a lower barrier, a lower entry point into clearing their lymph, they're going to be more likely to do it. And when they're more likely to do it, they're going to be more likely to see results, which then means they're going to be more likely to continue to do it. And that's really my whole goal. How can I make this super simple, like to the point where a 5th grader can do it so that you can benefit from it? So take a look at your lifestyle. Look at like, how much are you sitting? If you sit a lot, you're gonna wanna clear those lymph nodes at least once a day. Why? It's just good practice and your whole body is gonna thank you. Actually, one of the things that we've noticed, and that's not just me, but practitioners that are truly looking into the lymphatic system and addressing it, there's never just a lymph problem. There are always other things associated with it because our body works as one functioning unit, right? It's kind of like your car. If your car starts to spring an oil leak, you don't go to just a specific oil mechanic, right? You go to a car mechanic, and maybe it's a car mechanic specific to your car, but they look at the whole car as a whole. They don't look at it as parts and being like, oh yeah, this has a leak, but then your transmission's also going. So we're going to have to send you down the way for the transmission. And then they're like, oh, and your battery sucks and your combustion isn't working. And P.S., I am not a car girl, so I'm literally flying by the seat of my pants with this analogy at the moment, but I think you get the point. And so it's never one thing that causes a lymph system to become problematic. You gotta look at the whole picture, especially if you're not seeing results. So look at how your life is, look at what you're doing, how much are you sitting, and then clear those specific 7, because when you clear them, you're going to allow fluid from below that lymph node to actually move up and drain at your termini. Let me know below if this makes sense, and stay tuned because I'm going to explain what could be going on if you're not seeing results. Now, if you don't know what the specific 7 are, go and watch. I have a whole playlist on each point. And what that's going to do is it breaks it down to show you step by step where to do it, how to look for it, all of the things. It's so important. And I know that when you do it, you're going to see great results. And if this information has been exciting, helpful, useful, be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss any other of my videos so that you can implement at home drainage techniques. Thanks for being here and happy draining.